and welcome to Off the Fence, brought to you in association with Bet365. This is your weekly rundown of all things jump racing. We got off to a good start last week, but this week we've met a few technical issues along the way, and so I don't want to point fingers or anything because that would be unfair, but Tony Keenan, how are you tonight?
I'm terrible, thanks for asking. I was tilting enough after the weekend between doing me dough and trying to watch camera angles of Fairy House without getting dizzy until I realised to come on this evening I hadn't even charged my camera phone, so that was pretty good. So I'm pretty embarrassed with the whole thing, and the sooner we can move on from it the better, but I think that's going to be a struggle.
It's definitely going to be a struggle, I'm afraid, Tony. And as for you, Barry Geraghty, I don't know where you live, but they don't have Wi-Fi there, I hear.
No, Vodafone crashed over the weekend, and in the process my modem died as well, so I'm down to basics, but I'm hoping to limp through.
Down to basics, right. Meanwhile, I got the gold star, but on that note, like I say, we got off to a good start last week, and some of the positive feedback was all about the pace of the show, so we're going to keep that up and move swiftly on from technical issues and move on to the racing. As per last week and going forwards, we're going to review first and foremost, so we're going to look back at the last 7 days jump racing wise, and we've got loads to look back on, but we're going to start with the fighting fifth hurdle at Newcastle, where Epatante made her seasonal reappearance and did it in fine style. Barry, straight over to you, just as a starting point. I don't think Connections of her could have been more pleased with that, I don't think.
No, definitely not. She picked up where she left off, settled lovely, jumped really well. Aidan gave her a lovely ride, travelled brilliant, and he could afford to wait and use their speed over the last, and it was a rock solid performance. And you've seen other champion hurdle contenders and they've been running well, and others have fluffed their lines, but she put in a really good performance. And Scu Royale is a good yardstick, and he has been out and he's won and he's shown his well-being, so and she dismissed him really.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Let's just talk about her jumping then, because her actual style, when you really look at it, is quite unique. She doesn't actually jump. She kind of skips over the fences. She's so slick.
She is. She's very quick. The first hurdle, she survived the combination, the commotion at the first, I suppose. Second, she jumped nicely, and then she started to relax. She really showed then how quick she is when she bends her knees at the next one, and she doesn't raise her trajectory at all. Jumped the fourth well, she got close to the fifth, close again to the fourth last, but was quick and wasted no time in the air. The third last, she was very accurate and quick, met the second last on a forward stride and pinged it, and was really accurate at the last, saving so much energy through the race, but being so slick and accurate. She's a real champion hurdler.
Yeah, she's a proper champion hurdler. In terms of the ride Aidan gave her, obviously, when he pressed the button, she was there for him and just went away nicely at the line. Great start for the combination, I suppose.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it was a perfect start. Aidan gave me a buzz on Saturday morning about her. We spoke, but he'd ridden her before in Newbury and knew her well and got on well. So it was very straightforward, but it was all class, and it really shone.
And Tony, from your point of view, watching it on Saturday, I mean, she's 6-4 now with Bet365 for the champion hurdle, and I mean, it's a pretty weak division, but she's a pretty decent. I mean, she's sitting at the top of the tree and deserves to be there because everything we've seen of her so far, she looks to be improving, doesn't she?
Yeah, Hordern was top class, as Barry said. Visuals are top class, but let's not get carried away. I don't like these early coronations. I won't call them premature coronations. She may well win in March, but look, there was plenty to pick about at that race. You had the not so sleepy running out the first, taking the third favourite out. You have So Ryle then leading. Well, I think he's had 30 plus runs in his career, and he led once in his life before in a 2-runner novice chase. Like, that's not going to suit him at all. She's getting the myrtle, and she'll of course be getting that in March as well. But let's not get carried away with the thing. I suppose in her defence, it was she has already done the champion hurdle, but this was a bit of a speed test. Some very good stuff on the website there, where you can look at the sections. It went slow early, picked it up a little mid race, and then very fast late, which would have suited her. Like 6-4, is it a terrible price? No. Is it a brilliant price? No. Like, Nicky Henderson horses do miss races. Every trainer's horses can miss a race. It wouldn't be for me at the minute, and I don't know if to a fully degree that the champion hurdle is some sort of terrible race. We talked the week before last about the good Irish sort of second season hurdlers, the Samcro and the Abracadabras of the world. Were they absolutely bomb-proof or brilliant luck in Punchestown? No, but they certainly would have left plenty of room for progress. Willie Mullins, I'm sure, will have a few darts. Concertista look very good. Now, she may go the softer route, but yeah, I think it's kind of early days to be saying that she's gone by already.
That's why we have you on the show, Tony. You see, we're all waxing lyrical, and you just bring us back down to earth with a nice heavy bump. So, and on that note, actually, talking about waxing lyrical about horses, everyone's gone Envoi Allen mad, and why not? I mean, he's just looking like a megastar to me. But Tony, you're probably about to bring me back down to earth again. Just to start off with, what did you make of his performance at the weekend?
I love Envoi Allen. I suppose the most interesting thing about him is he was doing things as a bumper horse that he shouldn't really have been doing, and he did a little bit of a hurdles he shouldn't really have been doing. Now he's going to do his right thing. But again, I don't love the early coronation type stuff. I thought the most interesting thing, actually, the race was bloody boring, and to be quite honest with you, a lot of the grade 1s at Fairyhouse were awful. The most interesting horse to me at the weekend ran in a grade 3, but we might come to him. Most interesting thing was post-race. Gordon Elliott was saying he's not going to the Dublin Racing Festival, instead he's going to Punchestown. Now, my first inclination was to call bullshit on that because there's a trainers' championship at stake. And the Punchestown race is worth 25,000 last year, whereas the Flow Gas is worth 88,000. But he seems to want to follow a sort of a similar trajectory to last year, give him a run in January, like he did at Naas last year, and then bring him to Cheltenham. Now, I suppose he never got to finish the season out last year, in the sense where he went after Cheltenham last year. Maybe he's going to go to the Ryanair Gold Cup now at Fairyhouse would be interesting. But another interesting little thing is this would mean he would have 3 right-handed runs prior to Cheltenham, which I just thought was an interesting little quirk. But I was surprised. I thought Gordon was a bit hungrier for the Trainers' Championship, that he wouldn't want to be leaving out the Dublin Racing Festival, that race being so valuable.
Yeah, Barry, does that surprise you at all, or does that sort of path make sense to you?
Well, I suppose he has his own reasons, and maybe he's worried about the timing of Leopardstown. I know it's not that close to Cheltenham, but it's obviously closer than the Punchestown race, so maybe he's worried about that. If he gets a setback in the middle, you know, he's just hedging his bets. But I spoke to him afterwards, and that was his initial reaction. It's not set in stone, but he imagines that's where he'll go.
And as in terms of the performance that we saw him put in at the weekend, I didn't even mention this tracker camera because I feel like Tony's just going to go off on one at me. Please, Tony, forgive me for mentioning it. But the tracker camera gave us this great shot of when Jack Kennedy said go on Envoi Allen. And it's kind of what you spoke about, Barry, last week when we were talking about you riding him at home and how electric he is and how sensitive he is. And I mean, that feeling for Jack must be just 1 in a million, isn't it?
Oh, it is. When you're going to the second last on a horse like that and they're gathering up around you and you're going so easy, you have the luxury just to sit, pop the second last and press the button. And he was only in third gear when the rest were in fifth. He is different class, and you know, he might be a bad price for Cheltenham, but what's going to beat him? You know, if he's there healthy and well, there's nothing's going to stop him.
Well, I think he's about 5-4 with Bet365 currently for the Marsh Novices Chase. Just one last thing, Tony, about Envoi Allen that I wanted to touch upon. Matt Chapman had tweeted saying that I think the handicap chase was run 3 seconds faster. I don't know how much to read into times when it comes to comparing a novice's race to a full-on handicap chase. What do you make of that sort of analysis of a race like that?
Yeah, no, I'd be inclined to use that sort of stuff. Although I think a 4-runner race, where I would say the 3 other jockeys thought to themselves they were never beating Envoi Allen. You know, there was no real intent to go a pace in that race. The only thing I would say, like, the races were all weak at the weekend. Like, Willie Mullins is winning loads of races at the minute, but they're just not ready to go into the graded races yet. Like, I have him since the start of November. He's run 14 novice chasers and 8 of them have won. And some of them have looked brilliant. Like, an Energyman looked amazing in Goran and a really fast time. Franco de Port was quite good in Torless. Monkfish, obviously. Like, there's again, I hope to God he does run him against the Envoi Allens of the world and the Shishkins and all this type of stuff, because he has plenty of ammunition there yet. You know, horses do improve for fences. Obviously, an Energyman wouldn't have been in the same parish as Envoi Allen as a novice hurdler, but, you know, Willie has plenty of darts there, and it'll be interesting to see when they do come up against each other.
Yeah, fair play. And you mentioned there Monkfish. Let's move straight on to him. Obviously, we saw him win the beginner's chase at Ferryhouse over the 2 miles, 5 furlongs. I love this horse. I love a novice chaser. We said that last week. He's currently 4-1 for the RSA, which I think is potentially a touch premature. We've only seen him in the beginners. But Barry, I thought for a big, is it fair to say yoke of a horse? Does that mean? I don't know. I think that might be a bit offensive. But he's just such a big horse, and actually he's very athletic, and we saw him, like, he excelled over hurdles when he probably shouldn't have done. What did you make of his chasing debut?
No, exactly. He's very athletic for a big horse, and he's not the prettiest in the world, but it's not a beauty contest.
No.
But he's all class, and he got to a very good level. Obviously, he won the Albert Bartlett last year, and he got to be a high class novice hurdler, but he's got so much size and so much scope, and fences come so easy to him. He's going to be a much better chaser, and he looks like one with a massive future, and I'd say is the one to beat. But the novice division, I suppose, if you take away Chacun, Envoi and Monkfish, it's probably weak enough, and maybe Chantry House is the next best, and which trip he winds up over, I suppose, is questionable. He could step, obviously 2.5 would be the obvious one, but he could step up to 3 mile either. He's a point winner, so at the minute he would look like the biggest danger to either of those two, but it's a big step back from the big ones.
Yeah, it is. Tony, on that note then, like Barry says, we've sort of got this clutch of pretty high class individuals in the novice chasing division. What did you make of Monkfish?
Yeah, again, visuals excellent, but I'm going to have to pour a bit of cold water here again. The second horse, Willie Mullen, second string, well, he was ridden to come second. That was the only thing. He was given a ride, he was going to come second. You have the third horse, Sam's Profile, and Deal Care. Well, Deal Care has been a total disappointment. He just can't jump. And Sam's Profile is this horrible way of racing with his head down. I'm amazed he can actually see the fences. So I would just, again, 4-1, like, has a Willie Mullins horse ever fallen when it went up in grade in a novice chase? It happens all the time. Although one thing I do notice is his novices seem to be jumping actually really well. I wonder, has he changed the schooling regime? They seem to be doing very well at the minute, the novice chasers. But yeah, again, loads of horses. Like even Gordon Elliott there has depth, easy work. Andy Dufresne, pencil full of lead. A bit more depth maybe than maybe some of the markets would suggest. Now, I'm not saying that Chacun or Envoi are terrible prices. They're probably fine prices if that's your thing. But there's a lot of water to pass under the bridge.
Yeah, we're a long way out. I do agree with that. Let's stick with you, Tony, because I know you wanted to talk to us about Concertista, who won the Grade 2 mares at the weekend. Pretty impressive. Couldn't ask for more than that. And I think she's a mare that you're with, aren't you?
Yeah, big fan of this mare. Thought she proved a lot on Saturday, in the sense that prior to this season, it might have looked that she was a bit of a spring mare. She wanted decent ground. She wanted Cheltenham. So she's done the business, probably put up a Creo best at apparently the wrong time of the year on softish ground, stretching out and trip, and visually excellent. I would say the second, Manila Melody, is after putting up a Creo best there. She didn't get the run 2.5 last year at all. And maybe she didn't know maiden hurdle, but in her graded races she was tipping around there 2 miles, 18 furlongs. She had a prep run in Galway, form which worked out okay in Hatton's Grace, and to be honest, Concertista has beaten her really well, giving her a bit of weight. Very impressed with that. Other big takeaway from that race, we're talking about the Champion Bumper last week. I think we have to start calling it the Champion Bummer, because it seems to be just full of bum horses at this stage. Like Queensbrook, to me, is we're after kind of finding out a big hole in the Champion Bumper. She's supposed to improve for going up and trip and going on soft ground. That was a very moderate run out of her. I'm kind of thinking now that might like to be against Appreciated and Fernie Hollow when they go up into their grade 1s and their graded race over the next couple of weeks. And just to go back to Concertista, I see she has a grade 1 entry at Christmas time in the 2 mile hurdle. Now the obvious race for her would probably be the Mayor's Hurdle, also on the 29th. Just interesting to see. I know Willie Mullins tends to cover all bases, but I just didn't expect to see her in that race. So just where she goes next will be interesting.
Yeah, definitely of interest. Barry, what did you make of her?
Oh, you'd have to be impressed, and Paul rode her with so much confidence. He knew what he had, and even to me, watching Paul and watching the way Willie would have a horse ridden, he rode her with a lot of confidence, and he waited a lot. And you'd wonder possibly maybe was they fearing she might need the run, so there could be improvement in her. But the way she quickened in the straight was really impressive, and the way she jumped too, she was electric.
Yeah, tell me this, Barry. When you are riding a horse like that and you come swinging upside something that's hard off the bridle, as Paul did at the weekend, and a bit like, I guess, in the Fighting Fifth as well with Aidan on Epatante, and then you just press the button and go. I mean, as the winning jockey, does that give you the biggest kick? Is that a nice way to win a race?
Oh, always for me it was. If you could just sit and travel and stay travelling, and you're more likely to jump the last well if you're travelling, and you haven't committed and you're taking a lead. It's generally an easier way to go about it. But there's no better feeling than cruising up in one and just delivering in the last 150 yards.
And then you must have also been on the other side of the coin when something comes upside you cantering and it's like they're in a schooling morning and you're flat to the boards. That must also be a sickener.
And completely, and you're sitting there driving away thinking, will you ever go and F off and leave me alone? It's no, it's not a good feeling, that one.
It's great viewing anyway. I much enjoyed that race, I must say. And we can stick with the mares because let's move on to Honeysuckle. Concertista may meet Honeysuckle further down the line with any luck. Wins the Hatton's Grace again. I mean, you can't take it away from her. She's doing it nicely and she stayed unbeaten. But I don't know, there was something a little bit uninspiring about her win at the weekend, Tony. Am I being a bit harsh? Am I pouring some cold water on the sort of golden girls of jump racing at the moment?
No. I think the form is very questionable. Can I just give the times here? I've done the circuit times from the first hurdle in the 2 mile races and compared it to these to the Honeysuckle race, and she's by far the slowest. Like the juvenile hurdler Anna here went from his first hurdle in 3 minutes 54, and Honeysuckle was in 4:08. Like she's a Grade 1 horse, multiple Grade 1 winner, getting mare's allowances. Like they absolutely walked in that race, and she was in the right place. Now, I think at the same time she was probably in front a little bit too soon, and she was a bit gassy. But I would say that form now was well below some of her good efforts last year. And if you were looking for a horse to take from it, though I don't really like taking horses from these really falsely run races, I would have said Ronald Pump was a small bit unlucky. A 3 miler coming back to 2.5 on a flat track, didn't jump the second last too slick, and gaining all the way to the line. So no, I would be maybe inclined to take her on if she's going back now against the 2 milers. And again, Henry de Bromhead seems to have little thing that she's better right-handed. You know, is that an issue as well when she's going to be going to Leopardstown? I think she's going to miss Christmas now and head for the February meeting, where those other 2 milers now will be well sharpened up by then.
Yeah, it looks like she's going to follow a similar path anyway to last year, and then she'll probably end up in the mares hurdle at Cheltenham again, where I think at the moment she's an anti-post price of 3-1 with Bet365. Barry, I'd love to see her in a champion hurdle up against Epatante, but are you laughing at me? Would she get lapped?
I wouldn't think so. I'm sure the mare's hurdle is the way she'd go. And she did well last year to beat Benny to do. I think she is much better going right-handed. She jumps a little bit to her right, and obviously that isn't as much an issue going right-handed. But you saw in Leopardstown, she got a little fright over the last and had to get going again. And she made harder work of it in Cheltenham than she would have done had she been going the other way. I wouldn't judge her too much in the Hatton's Grace. I know it was a workmanlike performance, but it was a very muddled race. And I'd judge her better next time. But Leopardstown, in good company, I think it was an easy race that she won last year in comparison to what could be there this year. I think it could be a hotter race, and I think she'll have more to contend with.
Yeah, I'd like to see her in a touch deeper waters and see what she can do. Like it's all I know we like seeing her win, and they are the golden girls of jump racing at the moment. But it'd be good to see a proper battle. Let's move on. Quick mentions for Ballyadam and the Royal Bond. Impressive, but jumping for me, Barry, needs to improve a little bit.
Jumping does need to improve. He won nicely at the death, but I was expecting more from him really. But like that, it's very hard to judge him on one race. He is better than that, but he needs to be a lot better than that. So probably a little bit underwhelmed by him. I'd watch him brief and see him next time at Christmas or so. But I wasn't blown away by him anyway.
Yeah, I was, of the 3 Grade 1s, least blown away by him, then Honeysuckle, and then Envoi Allen. That was the order for me. Tony, over to you for Zana here, and 2 from 2 this season for Gordon Elliott, another juvenile hurdler for Gordon, and a pretty decent performance, I think.
Oh yeah, this the performance of the weekend for me. I like what you've said there, Ballyadam. to me, he would be a bad favourite now for the Supreme. Was utterly unimpressed with him, and to be honest, I would see the likes of Caskmate and Ngolo. To me, they wouldn't count now in a Supreme. So yeah, not for me. But Zanahiyr covered the same course and distance about 10 seconds quicker than Ballyadam. Now, part of that was Robbie Power setting a right gallop on Druid's Altar, but Ballyadam and the older novices didn't really make up an awful lot of ground on them in the late section, which you would expect them to do if it was run slowly in the early stages. I thought this was savage out of Zanahiyr. Jumped really well, powered through it, strong at the line. Now, I'm not an authority on this old course versus new course at Cheltenham. To me, they're just a race course. Like the two tracks similar enough. It's not like comparing Ballinrobe and Leopardstown. But the track that the Triumph was running at, to me, he would really relish that stamina emphasising sort of stuff. I liked him on the flat. Won his flat maiden in Fairyhouse. I think he did fast closing splits that day, if I recall correctly. Race wouldn't have worked out that great, but I thought he won with a bit in hand. He wouldn't be your typical horse at the flat, in that he was quite lightly raced. Some of these Triumph Hurdle horses could have loads of runs. He never even ran a handicap on the flat. He just has a few runs in maidens. I would like an Aga Khan horse going jumping. He's favoured for the Triumph Hurdle at the minute. I would say that is thoroughly merited. Got the impression reading and listening to Gordon Elliott and run up the race that he was in a lane similar with Quixilios, the Cheveley Park horse. I actually had a small bet on him for the Triumph Hurdle this evening. And even though he is fair, I would like him a lot.
Wow. Very positive mention from the man that isn't always that positive. Barry, were you as impressed as that?
I was. I had the pleasure of sitting on him on Tuesday morning. I rode him work for Gordon, and he's a lovely horse. And I suppose of all things, he's a big horse, and he's going to improve. He's got great bone, great depth, so he is. And as Tony says, the new course, the Triumph track, the track for the Thursday and Friday of the festival, is a stiffer track, and it's going to suit a proper stayer. And being by an Aga Khan horse and the size and depth he has, everything he does, he looks the right sort, and he is a lovely type to ride. He worked really well, and obviously he won really well.
Wow, positive mentions from both of you. Duly noted. We can whack on through any other talking points in the weekend. The Ladbrokes Trophy, Cloth Cap winning, I think, can we all agree a little, I don't know, below par Ladbrokes Trophy, shall we say? Anything to add, boys?
Yeah, well, it probably wasn't the strongest. We've seen better. There was no Gold Cup contender, I don't think. But it was a good performance by the winner. Ground had dried up to good, and the chase track in Newbury does be a lot drier than the hurdle track. So I think he is a horse who really loves it. He jumped brilliant. He really was springing off that good ground. I'm sure Trevor Hemmings would love to be going for the English Grand National with him, but with watered ground, I'm not sure whether he'll get it as good as he wants it. He ran in the Scottish National last year, or I'd imagine the Irish National could be a good option for him either, but I'd imagine his bags will be packed for entry, but I'd just be a concern about the watered ground for him.
Right, interesting. Okay, duly noted. Right, let's rattle on to our tracker horses, boys. Time to add horses to your tracker. Who are you going with, Tony?
I like the run of Ascaria 10 behind Monkfish. He was only 5th, but I thought he actually shaped second best. Looking at him over hurdles, to use your phrase, he was a bit of a boat or a yoke. He ran the Martin Pipe. He was kind of on his head the whole way, struggling to keep up, and then kind of staying on at the death. The trip looked a bit sharp from hurdles, looked a bit sharp from. Again, I'm a terrible judge of this, but from people that know say that he is the build of a chaser. I thought he jumped really well on Saturday until he didn't, and he made a mistake 3 out, which was just kind of crucial. But what he did after the third last was he managed to get back into it 2 out, and to me he looked to blow up. And reading the trainer comments beforehand, he suggested that he needed it. And to his credit, he did get back into it and then kind of faded between the last 2. I also like the fact that I think he's a 3-miler, and I like the fact that he started out over 2.5. You don't want the guts pulled out of them the first run back. Whether he's going to be a graded horse, I don't know, but he would be the type of horse to me that would definitely be winning a beginner's chase and could win a good handicap in the spring.
Right, into the At the Races tracker he goes. Barry, your tracker horse, please.
I thought Captain CJ ran a lot better in Ferias in the Portland Chase on Sunday than he did in Cork. He had some good form last season, but he ran a desperate race in Cork. He was tailed off and he pulled up, but he ran a good bit better. He travelled well, and he could be a great ride in something like the Tiestas. But I know they'll be thinking Grand Nationals down the road. He's locally owned and locally trained to Fairyhill, so the Irish Grand National I'm sure would be an option, or the English Grand National. But in the shorter term, he could be a great ride in the Tiestas on very soft ground in January.
Okay, mine was, and now I'm a little bit embarrassed to say it because it's not an under the radar horse, but I'm very keen not to write off a Fiddler on the Roof just yet for the Tizzards. I know he disappointed at Newbury at the weekend, but the race was not run to suit. Small field around Newbury doesn't suit him, and ground, everything about it, I just think he's one to keep on side still over fences over 2.5 miles, and so I'm just not giving up hope with him just yet. He's a grade 1 performer, and just stick with him for the time being. That's all I can say. But on that note, we can rattle through, I think we can move on to the weekend's action. Oh, I'm getting a note saying that we've missed Time Hill. Of course, last horse to look back on from the weekend, the staying hurdling division is over here, looking quite strong actually, and pretty interesting. We saw Time Hill win the long distance hurdle at the weekend, on Friday I should say, at Newbury. Barry, this is a horse that I think you're very, very fond of, aren't you?
Yeah, no, I am. Loved him as a novice all the way through. He won in Chepstow at the start of the season on his first run of hurdles, and it was a great performance. Little bit unlucky in running in the straight in Cheltenham with the Albert Bartlett.
A little bit.
I think
he got mullered. Absolutely mullered, Barry. How can you say that's a little bit unlucky?
Well, the stewards didn't seem to think so we can only call it a little bit when they didn't throw out the winner. But he's a gorgeous horse. And I fancied, I was keen to watch him on Friday. I mentioned him on the show last week. He's just a horse I've always really liked. They didn't go very quick, and he jumped out handy, and he was keen. And I think he was the horse who was inconvenienced most by the steady pace because he was so keen. But he travelled really well, jumped brilliantly, and he was, he did it the hard way from the front end, and it was a good solid performance. I know he was getting £3 off Paisley Park, but it just, to me, he was the horse to take out of the race, and he's the horse for the Stairs hurdle. Paisley Park ran a good race, but he looked like a horse who was fit and well and beaten fair and square. So I think there's more improvement in the winner.
Yeah, Time Hill's the 9-2 favourite now with Bet365 for the Stairs hurdle, and I'm a big Paisley Park fan, but when I saw that performance, and given the problems Paisley Park's had, and his run was pretty decent, but I thought, oof, that's going to be hard to turn that form around. I think I was, like I say, Paisley Park fan, but Time Hill, pretty impressive, and like I say, good staying division we've got to look forward to. Let's look ahead now to the weekend that we have coming up, and of course it's the Tingle Creek. Barry Geraghty, you won it 4 times. You must have had some great fun memories of spinning down those railway fences.
Yeah, brilliant. It's a great race and a great track, and there's no better test of a 2 mile chaser than swinging down the back straight and you have 7 in line and you're down over the railways and it's boom, boom, boom. It's brilliant, and it's been a great race over the years, but it doesn't look to have the depth this year that it has had in other years. And I know people are questioning Altior, and Nicky, I've spoken to him and he's more than happy with him, and to me he's got all the form in the book. There's nothing there to touch him. I think he's rock solid, and there's no reason why you'd want to take him on.
Yeah, I guess so. He does have the form in the book, and he is of course rock solid, but I guess, I don't know, last season did not go to plan for him, and I don't know, I'm nervous actually. I am nervous for the weekend. Tony, any view on the Tingle Creek view at this stage? Would you, I guess it does come down to Altior, would you be with or against him on Saturday?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's tuning in for my half-baked opinions on English horses, but I kind of thought Geraghty was an interesting runner here. I was impressed with him, his win in the Halton Gold Cup. I'd give him a life against Altior with race fitness under his belt.
Okay, well then let's stick with a bit of Irish action at the weekend. Tony, for you in the John Durkan, there's a load of horses entered. I'm not entirely sure what's going to run, but Min, Allaho, Faheen, Le Richebourg, Chacun, Pulsoir, just to name a few. What are you looking forward to seeing? Who would you be with or against?
Yeah, I suspect Min will run anyway. I don't know what he really want to start Allaho off here against him. Maybe horse I'm really interested in seeing is Battle Over Diane. I think he looked something different in Down Ryle. He showed pace that he hadn't shown before. The talk about times, the time in that race was really quick. There were fences that were just taking seconds out of the Grade 1 horses in the Ladbrokes Champion Chase. That was really impressive. I thought he jumped very well. And yeah, he could probably do a little bit of rain. Maybe Punchestown wouldn't totally be his track. We did win an novice chase there last year. But yeah, I think Battle Over Dying. I read somewhere as well that they were aiming him at it maybe more so than Samcro, which I thought was interesting. Because at the start of the season, you would have thought Samcro definitely would have been there number one out of those two. I wonder, has something changed there? Remember a similar case actually with Noel Meade. He had two Jigginstown horses, I think it was Disco and Road to Respect, and all along you would have said, oh, Disco's the pick of those two. And suddenly it seemed like Disco has been placed around Road to Respect, and Road to Respect won a few Grade 1s after that. So that he's the horse I'm looking forward to in the John Durkan at the moment.
Battle Over Dying it is. Barry, anything else to add to that?
No, I'd be with Tony on that. The wheels came off Battle Over Dying in the second half of last season, but he was a superstar as a novice hurdler. He was good early on, but then, as I said, the wheels came off, and it really looked good going down Ryle. He travelled, he jumped. He's a Grade 1 novice hurdler, and he's known for me. He's made for fences, but he's got the size, he's got the scope. So Min would be the one to beat, but Battle Over Dying would be the horse to watch, and he's the horse with a big future.
Wow, positive shout. And just because he was mentioned, you're in there a little bit clearly, Barry. Samcro, how is he? Any chat on him?
No, but Samcro, I suppose, he's had his issues over the years, and he always has the option of going up and trip as well. So I'm not sure what the plan is exactly, but you know, if you were given the choice of Battle Over Dying and Samcro, I know which one you'd be bringing home. And it's not Samcro.
Thanks for pointing that out to us. Right, on that note then, I think we can probably rattle on to a little bit of question time before we finish, because one of the horses is a horse we spoke about, well, one of the horses mentioned in question time is one of the horses we spoke about last week, Flinta Sacra, from Gary Salisbury, who asks, obviously Flinta Sacra was disappointing, but could you ask Barry to review what went wrong and how they will try and improve him for his next run? Please, Barry.
Yeah, well, he was far too keen. From the word go, he pulled and he pulled and he pulled. And, you know, for any horse to run any race, you want to be going around in fourth gear. You don't want to be going around in fifth gear, or you don't want to be going around on a horse trying to get into fifth gear. So he was burning the candle on both ends all the way through. He didn't relax and find a rhythm jumping. So it was never happening for him. And he ran a good race, considering with how hard he pulled and how moderately he jumped. But he was keen on his first bumper last season when I rode him, and I had a great ride off him in Kempton next time out. So I'd like to think maybe with the run under his belt and a bit of fizz out of him, he might relax better next time. You could possibly see a hood or maybe even earplugs and maybe a change of bit in him. But I wouldn't give up the ghost on him yet. I know he schooled really well at home, and as I say, he showed plenty of class in his bumper. So I still think he's a classy sort and one that they'll have to contend with. But he has to learn to settle.
Barry, just on that, what do you think of jockeys? I know sometimes you're expecting a horse to be keen, other times you're not expecting a horse to be keen. When you find out in the first couple of furlongs that they're keen, like, are you better fighting them, or should you just let them stride on? Like, good example there at Navan a couple of weeks ago. Now, this horse is a particularly keen sort of an effort. Joseph O'Brien Jigginstown first him out in a grade novice hurdle Fire Attack. He was running away with Mark Welch, and he down the back he kind of took him to the front. I thought he got a bit more out of him by taking him to the front. Although I was looking at Robert Power there at the weekend riding Emily Moon, I thought he fought him the whole way. The horse sort of powered to the second last and didn't see it out at all. I just wonder, would he been better letting her stride on? And maybe the trip was the issue there. Now I know the argument, maybe there's an argument there to be made that you might win the battle but lose the war. Like you might win that race but you could blow the horse for future. It'll never settle type of thing. But just what's your thoughts on that?
No, I'd agree with that. You know, you might win the battle and lose the war, but you're always in hope when you go a mile in a race and you're still running keen. You're hoping maybe he might just settle, jump the next hurdle and you get your hands down, you're hoping it's going to settle. For me, if you go to the front on a horse like that and the field then get up on your tail, say going to the third last, they force you to show your hand when they want. You're not in control. So I'd always rather, stick it out and hopefully get him to settle, and if it doesn't work today it might work the next day. But if you go to the front and you set him alight and the field get up behind them and it may make you kick when the time you're not ready, it's going to affect you the following day. You're not going to be able to settle them as easy next time as a result. So for me, I'd always persevere and play the long game.
Interesting. Playing the long game, like it. Right, I think that pretty much wraps up this show. Tony, anything more to add before we sign off, please?
Well, I'm absolutely delighted you've left me rant to last. I have to bring up this thing about the cameras. Now, I realise I realise it is the most minutiae of the minutiae, and no one really cares in the real world. We have little to be an eye on us, but this was driving me over the edge on Sunday. Like in the Hatton's Grace, right, I do see the point of showing these tracker shots and stuff, and I quite enjoyed the drone stuff, but I just want to see the whole field as much as possible for as much as the race. I see a bit of a divide with responses to this. I think maybe fans of the sport enjoy the more unusual arty shots, but maybe punters who've had a bet, maybe it's an each way bet that has to finish 4th or 5th, like to see the race. So you can't please everyone, but bloody God, the Hatton's Grace, they've changed the angle 3 times inside the last half mile. I haven't a clue what's going on. I backed Highbury in that handicap hurdle, the second last. I couldn't tell you whether he was going well, going badly. I had no sense of how far he was off the leaders. And what's annoying now is when you go back to look at the replays, they've still mixed in the kind of the arty shots. It's just quite hard to figure out the stuff. Now maybe I just need to adapt. My mind's a bit slow that I can't adapt to the new camera angle. But personally, it's not for me. And I don't think it's a backward thing to say that. I think actually the traditional shot works really well. And it lets you see more of the race, as you would if you'd had a good position in the stands watching. But again, I know I'm not going to please everyone with that comment, but anyway, that's just me.
No, each side, 2 sides to every story. I think each week we should have a little spin-off called Offence.
Yeah, well, it'll be more like off the bridle rather than off the fence if you let me go on like this, and I'll probably get myself in trouble, so maybe I'll just shut up.
No, if we have a little section called Offence, then we could like all pipe in what we've been offended by this week. And it's camera angles this time for Tony. Barry, have you got anything to add before we sign off, please?
Well, no, I'd agree with Tony in the camera angles, but I think during the race they're good. They're great for viewers, but in the last 3 or 4 furlongs, it's nice to be able to see the field and see what's happening. When you're switching from one angle to the next, you're losing your eye and losing vision on what's going forward and what's going backwards. So I got confused myself a few times. I didn't know what was coming or going, but I thought it was good through the race. So you're slightly a dinosaur, Tony. I'm with you a bit of the way.
Yeah, I'm complete absolute troglodyte caveman, but sure, look, what can you do?
Barry really didn't get the memo about this show getting off the fence. He's just sat permanently on the fence at the moment. But anyway, on that note, I think we can probably sign off. This has been very enjoyable. And guys, we want you to get involved. So if you agree with anything we've said, if you disagree with Tony and you like the camera angles, or more importantly, when it comes to the horses, if you were inspired by Ballyadam, or if you didn't like Envoi Allen, anything, just get involved. Give us a comment, give us a like, give us a retweet, and on YouTube, hit subscribe. Use the comment box there, because we're picking them all up and we're going to pick out more questions as time goes on, and we just really want you all to be involved. But for now, thank you very much, Tony Keenan.
Thank you and good luck. Enjoy your racing this week.
Thank you very much, Barry Geraghty.
Cheers, Les. Thank you.
That was Off the Fence. Please join us again next week, and I hope you enjoyed it.